We don't always hear the moment a family breaks. Sometimes it comes through a hospital intercom, clipped and urgent, while a hallway stays bright like nothing is wrong. Doctor. Avery Collins didn't build her life to prove anyone wrong. She built it because she had to, and when the people who erased her finally needed her hands, the hurt didn't arrive as a speech. It arrived as a name on a trauma chart. This is how she remembers it. The pager dragged me out of sleep so fast my stomach flipped before my feet even hit the floor. I was already reaching for my scrubs, already moving, like my body knew the route before my mind caught up. Level 1 trauma. Incoming. Blunt abdominal. Unstable. Marcus shifted in the bed when I pulled on my hoodie. He didn't ask for details. He never did on nights like this. You want me to drive you? His voice was thick with sleep, but steady. I'm good. I kissed his forehead and grabbed my badge from the hook by the door. Go back to sleep. Outside. The air was cold and damp, the kind that clings. The streets were empty in that downtown way where every stoplight feels like it's watching you. I drove on autopilot, hands tight on the wheel, mouth dry. In my head, I ran the checklist mechanism. Likely injuries, blood products, OR readiness. At the ambulance bay, the doors opened and closed like lungs. I badged in, nodded at security, and headed straight to the trauma bay. Linda, our charge nurse, met me at the corner with the tablet already in her hands. Her ponytail was half undone, like she'd pulled it back in a hurry. Single vehicle collision, she said. Possible ejection. Pressure's dropping. I took the tablet, thumbed the screen, and there it was. The name, Brandon Collins. For a second, my vision sharpened the way it does right before you cry. Except I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. My hand just stopped moving. Linda's voice softened. You okay? I need Chief on call. The words came out clean, like I was ordering supplies. And page doctor. Whitaker. Now. Linda didn't ask why. She just moved. The paramedics hit the doors hard with the stretcher. A man strapped down, gray around the mouth, blood soaking through the left side of his shirt. His hair looked darker than I remembered. Or maybe it was just the lighting. One of the medics leaned in. BP's tanking, belly's rigid. We've got 2 large-bore IVs, fluids wide open. I leaned close enough to see the face under the oxygen mask. My brother. My throat tightened, not with grief, but with something older and meaner. We're going to the OR, I told the team. Massive transfusion protocol. Call blood bank. In the corner. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda, Chief on call notified. Risk management notified. Doctor. Whitaker en route. We've seen a lot of stories begin in rooms like this. Not with shouting, not with revenge. Just a door swinging shut while someone realizes they can't walk away. If you want more stories with this kind of quiet collision, subscribing helps us keep them coming. I stepped into the scrub room and turned on the water. Hot. Steady. Indifferent. In the stainless steel reflection, I looked like I always do at this hour, tired, focused, contained. I pressed my palms together, then reached for the gown. When the OR doors opened, Dr. Whitaker was already there, tying her mask. I'm with you, she said. I nodded once. Scalpel. The first incision is always the quietest part. Everything before it is noise, beeping monitors, metal trays clinking, someone adjusting suction. But the second the blade touches skin, the room narrows, pressure's falling. Anesthesia called out. I know. I didn't look up. Start the massive transfusion protocol. 2 units now. Doctor. Whitaker stood across from me, already scrubbed in. She didn't hover. She didn't take over. She just watched my hands. Do you want me to lead? She asked quietly. Not challenging, just offering. I've disclosed the conflict. I replied, keeping my eyes on the field. You're here to step in if I waver. A pause. Then, understood. His abdomen was filling fast. Blood pooled where it shouldn't. The spleen was ruptured, Not a small tear. It was blown apart. Suction. The resident handed it over. Eyes wide. She knew the name, too. News travels fast in a hospital at 3 a.m. Clamp. My voice stayed steady. My hands did too. Inside, though, there was a flicker. Not fear. Not grief. Just memory. Brandon at 18, leaning against the kitchen counter. You're not as smart as you think you are. Avery. I pushed the thought out and focused. Splenectomy. I announced, we're taking it. Copy. Whitaker replied. Blood products arrived in a cooler. The nurse read the units out loud as they hung them. Keep me updated on output, I told anesthesia. Yes, doctor. Doctor. That word used to be the punchline in my house. My mind drifted again for half a second. Dad. I got into Feinberg. That's impressive. He'd said, like he was commenting on the weather. Brandon. Did you hear your sister Brandon had smirked? Let's see if she lasts. I tightened my grip on the needle driver. Liver laceration. Whitaker noted. Grade 3, maybe 4. I see it. We worked in silence for a while. Just controlled movements, sutures placed carefully, packing, irrigation. At one point, Whitaker leaned closer. You're steady, she said, low enough only I could hear. I don't have a choice. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. 3 hours in. His pressure stabilized. The bleeding slowed. The room exhaled without saying so. Close, I ordered. As we finished the final layer, Whitaker stepped back slightly. You did your job. I always do. She studied me for a moment. That wasn't what I meant. I peeled off my gloves and dropped them into the bin. My hands felt heavier than they should have. Is he going to make it? The resident asked softly. Yes. I met her eyes. He is. And for reasons I didn't let myself examine, that answer felt complicated. I didn't go to the waiting room right away. I stood at the scrub sink longer than necessary, letting the water run over my hands even though they were already clean. My reflection in the steel panel looked tired but controlled. That part, at least, hadn't changed in 8 years. Linda came in quietly. They're asking for the surgeon. Are they alone? She hesitated. No, that was enough. I dried my hands, took off the cap, and straightened my badge. Doctor. Avery Collins. Associate Trauma Director. M.D. F.A.C.S. The letters looked clinical and impersonal. Good. The waiting room was too bright for that hour. My father stood up the second I walked in. He still did that. Always standing first, always bracing. Doctor, he began. Voice tight. My son. He stopped mid-sentence. Recognition doesn't hit all at once. It moves. Eyes to badge, badge to face, face back to badge. His mouth parted, but no words came out. My mother gripped her purse with both hands like she was holding on to something solid. Avery. I kept my tone even. Mr. and Mrs. Collins. Your son sustained a ruptured spleen and a significant liver laceration. We removed the spleen and repaired the liver. He's stable and in the intensive care unit. My father swallowed. You operated, yes. My mother stepped forward, almost reaching for me, then stopped herself halfway. We didn't know you were here. I've been here for 6 years. Silence stretched between us. Not dramatic, just heavy. Behind me, I could feel the nurses pretending not to watch. My father cleared his throat. Brandon said you left medicine. I didn't. He told us I know what he told you. My mother's voice trembled. He said you dropped out, that you were in trouble, that you needed money. $47,500. He said you'd borrowed it to fix something with the school. I felt the old heat rise in my chest. Not explosive, just steady. I never borrowed money from Brandon. My father's jaw tightened. He showed us emails, fabricated ones. He said the school wouldn't talk to us because of privacy laws. That part was true. I held his gaze. FERPA protects student records. Without my written consent, they couldn't confirm anything. He used that. My mother looked at him, then back at me. We tried calling. I called you 14 times in 5 days. He flinched at that. You blocked my number. I continued. Not louder, just clearer. I sent 2 emails. I mailed certified documents from the university confirming my leave of absence. You signed for them. My mother's fingers tightened around her purse strap. Your father said if you weren't admitting fault, we shouldn't read excuses. I wasn't making excuses. I know that now. Her voice broke on the last word. My father shifted his weight. This isn't the place. It wasn't the place 8 years ago either. I replied, still calm. But here we are. A nurse walked past with a clipboard, pretending to scan it. The air felt thin. My father finally asked the only thing that mattered in that moment. Is he going to live? Yes. He nodded once. A sharp, almost military motion. My mother whispered, Thank you. I gave a small nod back. Professional. Contained. You can see him in about an hour. I told them. A nurse will update you. As I turned to leave, my father spoke again, softer this time. Avery, we thought you were lost. I didn't turn around. I wasn't lost, I answered. You just stopped looking. The ICU always feels different in the morning. Less frantic, more exposed. Brandon was still intubated when I walked in. Monitors steady, lines taped neatly, the surgical dressing clean. He looked smaller than I remembered. That surprised me. Doctor. Whitaker was reviewing labs at the foot of the bed. Vitals are holding, she murmured. Good work. I nodded. Thanks for staying. She glanced at me. That wasn't just for him. I knew what she meant. Documentation. Witness. Protection. She gave my shoulder a brief squeeze before stepping out. I checked the drains, adjusted the IV pump, listened to his lungs. Routine, controlled. His eyelids fluttered about an hour later. Anesthesia lightening. Avery. It came out hoarse around the tube. I'm here. His eyes moved slowly, trying to focus. Confusion first, then recognition, then something else. You did this? Yes. He swallowed hard, wincing. You're still a doctor. I never stopped. He tried to shake his head and stopped when it hurt. Dad said I know what Dad said. A nurse stepped in to adjust the ventilator settings. She gave me a quick look, then focused on the screen like nothing unusual was happening. Brandon's voice was rough. I thought you'd quit. I didn't. He closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them again, there was a flicker I recognized. Calculation. Habit. They told me you needed money back then. He muttered, 47,500. I was trying to help. You told them I begged you for it. You did ask for something. I asked you not to lie. His breathing picked up slightly. The monitor beeped faster. Don't do this now. He rasped. I'm not doing anything. He looked at the ceiling. You always had to win. This wasn't a competition. It was for you. No. I leaned closer, keeping my voice low. It was for you. The nurse cleared her throat gently. Let's keep stimulation minimal. He needs rest. I stepped back. Brandon's gaze followed me. Are you going to tell them I don't need to? He understood what that meant. The truth had already started moving without me. When I left the room, my mother was standing in the hallway. She must have been waiting outside the whole time. Is he awake for short periods? She nodded, hands twisting together. He said you were in trouble, that the school was investigating you. They weren't. He said he saw disciplinary letters. They were fake. She stared at the floor tiles like they might rearrange into something easier to believe. Your father found out something this morning, she whispered, about an inquiry. 2 years ago, someone contacted the hospital board about your credentials. I felt my jaw tighten. I know. I replied. It was routine, cleared quickly. Her eyes lifted slowly. You knew. Yes. She pressed her lips together. I didn't tell you. You weren't speaking to me. That landed. She inhaled carefully. Your father wants to talk. Then he can. My father did not wait for me to find him. He was standing near the vending machines at the end of the hallway, staring at nothing. A paper cup of coffee sat untouched in his hand, the steam long gone. You have been busy, he began when I approached. No greeting. No hello. Avery. Just the immediate pivot to an observation he could control. I work here. Dad. I replied, my voice sounding hollow in the sterile corridor. That is not what I meant. I folded my arms, more out of habit than defense. Then say what you mean. He ran a hand over his face. He looked older than I remembered, not dramatically, but worn down around the edges, like an old photograph left in the sun. This morning, he continued slowly, I called the hospital's administrative office. I asked about that inquiry from 2 years ago. I did not respond. I let the silence do the heavy lifting. They confirmed someone tried to question your board certification, your employment status, an anonymous call. The internet protocol address was traced back to Cincinnati. He paused, his voice cracking. Back home. Yes. They said it was a routine review, closed within days. It was. My credentials are impeccable. He looked at me then. Really looked, his eyes searching mine for a flicker of the girl he used to know. You never told us. You were not speaking to me. You made that very clear. His jaw shifted. Brandon said he would never do something like that. I did not say he did. I am just stating facts. He stared at the floor, processing. My mother joined us then. Her hands clasped tightly together as if she were praying or holding herself together. Thomas, she whispered, a soft plea for him to be careful. He ignored her for a second. Back then, when he told us you had borrowed $47,500, I wired it to him. The air left my lungs. I felt a sudden sharp nausea. You did what he said the school would press charges if the balance was not covered. He said you were panicking, ashamed, and you did not call me. I felt a cold heat rise in my chest. I was working 2 waitress jobs and sleeping on a borrowed mattress because I could not afford rent. And you wired him $47,500 in my name. His shoulders dropped. You were not answering. I called 14 times in 5 days. My voice was a jagged whisper. I sent emails. He showed us emails from your account. Avery. They looked real. They were fake. He spoofed the domain. I stepped closer, my heart hammering. He did not just lie to you. Dad, he stole from you. He used my ruin as a payday. A long silence followed. My father exhaled slowly, like something was cracking open inside him. My mother's voice came out thin, broken. He told us the school could not confirm anything because of privacy laws. That without a signed release. They would not speak. That part was true. I answered. The privacy laws are real? Everything else was a weapon. My father finally looked up, his eyes wet. I should have driven to Chicago. I should have walked into that admissions office myself. Yes, I said, the word sharp and final. You should have. My mother swallowed hard. I signed for your certified mail. Avery, I held it. Your father told me not to open it if you were not admitting fault. I still have it. It is in the bottom drawer of the desk. My father stared at her in shock. He began to realize that the structure of his house was built on a foundation of silence. When he is stable, my father straightened his back. We are going to have a conversation. That is between you and him, I said, turning back toward the ICU. I already had mine 8 years ago. By late afternoon, word had spread through the hospital corridors like a slow-moving fever. Medical institutions are peculiar that way. No one officially announces the collapse of a family, but somehow everyone knows. I felt it in the heavy pauses as I walked past the nurse's station, not the sharp sting of gossip, but a quiet, heavy awareness. Linda caught up to me just outside the intensive care unit. "There is someone asking for you." "Avery," she murmured, her voice lowered. "She says she is family. A Judith Harper." I froze for 1/2 second. "My aunt. What is she doing here?" "She did not lead with her name," Linda added, a flicker of respect in her eyes. "She led with, 'I have documentation.'" That sounded exactly like Judith, a retired corporate compliance attorney. She had spent 30 years finding the truth in the fine print. I found her standing near the tall windows at the end of the corridor. She wore her coat over her shoulders, a professional leather folder tucked under her arm. She looked exactly as she had 8 years ago, sharp haircut, direct eyes, and a complete absence of wasted movement. "Avery." She stepped forward and hugged me once, firm and quick. "You did well in that operating room. I know what you were up against. You heard already, I always hear. Avery. People talk to attorneys when they are guilty. They talk to me when they are suspicious." She held up the folder. And I did not come empty-handed. My parents were still in the waiting area, huddled together like survivors of a wreck. When Judith walked in, my father straightened his posture immediately, his old instincts for defense kicking in. "You knew!" he began, his voice laced with a mixture of accusation and dread. "I suspected Thomas," she corrected with a chilling calm. "That is a very different thing from knowing." She set the folder on the low table between them and opened it. Inside was a clinical autopsy of a 5-year deception. There were printed emails, screenshots with headers visible, and digital timestamps. "I had a colleague run a forensic review 2 years ago," Judith explained, her voice cutting through the sterile air. When that anonymous inquiry hit the hospital board, I started connecting the dots. I knew Avery was too meticulous for those claims to be real. My father's face tightened. "You went behind our backs. I went around your denial. Thomas, there is a difference." She slid one page toward him. "Look at the metadata. The disciplinary letter Brandon showed you? It was created on his personal laptop on a Tuesday afternoon. The font is not even the one Northwestern Feinberg uses for official correspondence." My mother leaned closer, her hands trembling so violently she had to tuck them under her arms. "This cannot be true. He said he was helping her. It can." "Elaine, and it is." Judith flipped to another page, a bank transfer record. "The $47,500 you wired him, he never sent a cent to a university. He deposited it into his personal high-yield investment account. He was earning 7% interest on your grief." My father stared at the numbers as if he were waiting for them to rearrange themselves into a lie he could live with. "He told us she was ashamed," he muttered, his voice breaking. "And you chose to believe in her shame rather than asking for her truth," Judith said. Silence filled the space, thick and suffocating. I stood 10 feet back, neither hiding nor intervening. Judith pulled out one final document, a printed email chain. 2 years ago, Brandon contacted a private investigator. He asked if there were any complaints filed against Avery's medical license. He was looking for a ghost that did not exist. My father's voice was a low, guttural rasp. Why would he do this to his own sister? Because if she failed, Judith answered, he would never have to feel like he was falling behind. He needed her to be the problem so he could remain the solution. Footsteps approached from behind us. I turned to see an orderly wheeling Brandon slowly down the hall for his scheduled imaging. He was pale, awake, and watching. His eyes locked onto the folder in Judith's hands, and for the first time, the calculation vanished from his face. "No!" he rasped. The sound caught in his throat. My father stepped toward the stretcher, his face drained of color. "Did you do this? Brandon, did you steal from us to bury your sister?" Brandon tried to push himself up, wincing as the movement pulled at his internal sutures. Dad! I was protecting the family name. I was protecting you from her leaving us behind. I felt the air shift. It was not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet, final closing of a door. Judith closed the folder gently. No one leaves you behind. Brandon, she said evenly. You just refused to walk beside her. Brandon's gaze flicked to me, a desperate, dying spark of resentment in his eyes. You always needed to be better, he muttered. I just needed to be left alone. I replied. The orderly cleared his throat softly. We need to move. Doctors. As they wheeled him away, my father did not follow. He just stood there, staring at the leather folder as if it weighed 100 pounds. Judith handed it to him. Take it, she said. You have avoided the evidence for 8 years. It is time to read. The hallway felt quieter after Brandon was wheeled away. Not silent. Just emptied. My father was still holding the folder. He hadn't opened it yet, just gripping it like it might burn him. My mother sank into one of the plastic chairs, staring at the floor. Judith stood between them and me, not protective, not aggressive, just present. Finally, my father flipped the folder open. He read slowly, not skimming, not rushing. Each page turned with deliberate care. The bank transfer, the fabricated emails, the metadata report, the inquiry records. His jaw tightened, loosened, tightened again, my mother whispered. Thomas. He didn't respond. After a long minute, he looked up at me, not defensive this time, not angry, just stripped. I asked him if you'd stolen. He admitted quietly. He told me you'd forged a caregiver document, that you'd lied to your dean. I didn't. I know that now. Judith stepped back slightly, giving space. I wired that money because I thought I was saving you from arrest. My father continued. I thought I was protecting the family. You were protecting him. I replied, not harsh, just clear. He swallowed hard. My mother finally lifted her head. I signed for your certified letter. She said again, voice trembling. I held it. I didn't open it. I know. I told myself if you were innocent, you'd come home in person. I tried. She nodded, tears slipping down without drama. I was afraid of your father's temper, she added softly. And afraid of being wrong. My father exhaled sharply at that. Not anger, just recognition. Judith broke the silence. The hospital board will conduct its own review about the anonymous inquiry, she said evenly. That part is out of your hands. My father closed the folder. He did this, he murmured. All of it? Yes, I answered. He stared down the hallway where Brandon had disappeared. I need to hear it from him. That's between you and him. He nodded once. For a moment, no one moved. Then my mother stood and walked toward me slowly. She didn't reach out, just stopped close enough that I could see the faint lines around her eyes. I don't expect forgiveness, she said quietly. Not tonight. Not soon. I didn't respond right away. I'm not the same person you shut out. I finally said, I can see that. She gave a small, shaky breath. Your house, she began, almost hesitant. Do you still live in the same place, the one in Chicago? Yes, she nodded, as if filing that away carefully. Behind us, the ICU doors opened briefly. A nurse called for respiratory therapy. Life moving on. As it does. My father slipped the folder under his arm. I'm not leaving this hospital without finishing this, he muttered. I believed him, and for the first time in years, that belief didn't feel naive. I did not see them for 3 weeks after that night. Brandon remained in the hospital for 10 days. His recovery was steady, controlled, and professional. I kept my distance unless it was strictly clinical. Doctor? Whitaker signed off on the final discharge summary with me standing beside her, a silent witness to his departure. The hospital board completed its internal review shortly after. As expected, the anonymous inquiry from 2 years ago was confirmed as malicious, but legally non-actionable. My credentials were never in question. That part was documented and closed. Life moved forward. It always does. Then, on a Sunday morning in early spring, the doorbell rang. Marcus looked up from the kitchen table, expecting someone. No. When I opened the door, my mother was standing there alone. She looked smaller somehow. "I will not stay long," she said, her voice careful. She held a large envelope in both hands. The edges were worn, yellowed by 8 years of neglect. "I brought something." She stood in the living room, glancing at the life I had built. She placed the envelope on the coffee table. "It is your certified letter from 8 years ago. I kept it in the bottom drawer. I told myself I would open it one day. I never did." The envelope was still sealed. My handwriting was still sharp in the corner. "You never read it?" I asked. She shook her head. "After the hospital, your father asked where it was. He sat at the desk for 1 hour just looking at it. He is coming next weekend. He wants to open it in front of you." I picked up the envelope. It felt lighter than I remembered. "We will open it next weekend," I replied. "At the door." She hesitated. "You were never lost." "Avery, I know." When she left, Marcus looked at the envelope. "That is it." We set it on the table, unopened. This time, no one was afraid of what was inside. My father came the following Saturday. He stood in my living room holding the envelope like it was something fragile. Marcus made coffee and gave us space. My father sat across from me, running his thumb along the sealed edge. "I should have opened this 8 years ago," he muttered. "Yes," I said. He finally tore it open. He read the letter slowly, my old words, the hospital records, and the part where I wrote, "I am still your daughter." His hands shook. "I needed to be right," he admitted, "more than I needed to be your father. I failed you. I did not offer comfort. I let the silence sit. I cannot fix those years," he went on, "but I do not want to keep losing more." "That depends on consistency," I replied, "not speeches." He gave a small nod. Later, he helped Marcus carry plates to the table, counting them under his breath. 4, he said. 4. Success did not make the past shrink. What changed me was realizing I no longer need their confirmation. I built a life that stands on its own. Now, if they walk into it, it is because I opened the door, not because I am still knocking.